The employees of Prime Axis had never seen Nneka cry. They had seen her work through fever. They had seen her spend entire nights correcting accounts that could have destroyed the company. They had seen her walk into rooms filled with angry clients and come out with signed contracts. But on that Monday morning, Nneka walked through the company lobby carrying a small cardboard box. Inside it were 11 years of her life, a framed photograph, 2 notebooks, a coffee mug, and a small calculator she had used when Prime Axis was nothing more than a dream shared by 2 young lovers. Every employee lowered their eyes as she passed. No one wanted to meet her gaze. 2 security guards followed behind her, not because Nneka had stolen anything, not because she had threatened anyone, but because the man she loved had ordered them to escort her from the company she had helped build. At the entrance, Nneka stopped. Behind the glass walls of the boardroom stood Chidi Okafor, the company's founder, the man whose face appeared on magazine covers, the man reporters called a business genius, the man Nneka had loved since they had nothing. Beside him stood Zara Balogun, the elegant daughter of one of the richest men in the country. Zara wore a white suit and watched silently. Nneka looked at Chidi through the glass. "After everything we built together," she said, "you are sending security to remove me." Chidi stepped into the lobby. He adjusted the expensive cufflinks Nneka had bought him for his birthday 2 years earlier. Then he said the words that ended whatever remained between them. "You worked for my company, Nneka. Do not confuse loyalty with ownership." For a moment, the entire lobby became still. Nneka looked at him as if she were seeing a stranger wearing the face of the man she loved. Then she nodded. She held her box more tightly and walked through the doors. Chidi watched her leave and believed he had removed the woman standing between him and a greater future. He did not know he had just removed the mind holding his company together. He did not know the clients trusted Nneka more than they trusted the company's name. And he certainly did not know that within 2 years, the company he called his would be gone, while the woman he called an employee would be receiving an award as one of the most successful businesswomen in the industry. My people, sit close, because sometimes the person standing beside you is not blocking your light. Sometimes that person is the reason the light is still on. 11 years earlier, Chidi and Nneka lived in a small rented apartment above a noisy mechanics workshop. The apartment had 1 bedroom, a narrow kitchen, and a window that refused to close whenever it rained. They did not have much, but they had plans. Chidi was charming. He could enter a room full of strangers and live with 3 telephone numbers and the promise of work. Nneka was quieter. She listened carefully. She understood money, contracts, costs, and the small details people ignored until those details became expensive problems. One evening, Chidi returned home carrying a folder. "I have found our first client," he announced. Nneka looked up from the old laptop on the table. "Our first client for what?" "For our company." "We do not have a company." "We will by tomorrow." The client needed office furniture supplied to 3 branches. Chidi had promised delivery within 10 days. Nneka opened the folder and began calculating. After 10 minutes, she looked at him. "You promised this price?" "Yes. We will lose money. We need the opportunity. An opportunity that leaves us in debt is not an opportunity." Chidi smiled. "That is why I have you." They spent the night contacting suppliers. Nneka negotiated lower prices and arranged staggered payments. Chidi borrowed a delivery vehicle from a friend. They completed the order on time and made a small profit. The client recommended them to someone else. Then that person recommended them again. Prime Access began with one old laptop, 2 plastic chairs, borrowed money, and 2 people who believed they were building one future. Chidi brought the confidence. Nneka brought the structure. Together, they were powerful. As the business began receiving larger contracts, Chidi announced that it was time to register the company properly. "I will handle it," he told Nneka. She was busy preparing proposals and managing the little money they had, so she trusted him. Several weeks later, Nneka was searching for a supplier's invoice when she found the company documents inside Chidi's briefcase. She smiled and opened them. Then the smile disappeared. Under ownership, only one name appeared: Chidi Okafor. Nneka read the page again. Her own name was nowhere among the owners. That evening, she placed the documents on the table. "Chidi, why is my name not here?" He glanced at them. "What do you mean?" "The company. Why is it registered only in your name?" Chidi gave a small laugh. "Nneka, we are going to marry. What belongs to me belongs to you. But we started this together, and we will finish it together." He moved closer and took her hands. "This is only paperwork. It is ownership. Do you think I would ever take what belongs to you?" Nneka said nothing. Chidi touched her face. "We have shared hunger. We have shared debts. We have shared one room. Do you really think a piece of paper is more important than what we have?" Nneka looked at the man she loved. She did not want him to believe she distrusted him. She did not want paperwork to create a problem between them. So she allowed him to kiss her forehead and promised that they were one. She continued building Prime Access as though her name were written beside his. It was not. And sometimes, my people, the most dangerous lie is not spoken by an enemy. It is spoken gently by someone you love. Prime Access grew quickly. Chidi became the public face of the company. He attended meetings, shook hands, gave presentations, and made bold promises. Nneka remained behind the scenes, turning those promises into results. When Chidi promised a client delivery in 3 weeks instead of 6, Nneka reorganized the staff and negotiated with suppliers until the impossible became possible. When he signed the contract without noticing a costly penalty clause, Nneka convinced the client to amend it. When he spent too much money furnishing the new office, Nneka restructured their payments so salaries could still be paid. Employees learned a simple rule. When Chidi made an announcement, wait. When Nneka gave instructions, move. She knew every account, every supplier, every difficult client, every employee's strength. She knew which contracts made money and which ones only looked impressive. One afternoon, Mrs. Grace Danjuma, the owner of a large retail chain, threatened to cancel her company's contract after a major delivery failure. Chidi avoided her calls. He was attending a business conference and did not want bad news to spoil his speech. Nneka drove to Mrs. Danjuma's office herself. She listened while the older woman spoke angrily for nearly an hour. Then Nneka apologized without excuses. She arranged replacement goods, covered the client's losses, and personally supervised the next delivery. Mrs. Danjuma did not cancel the contract. Instead, she increased it. From that day, whenever something important happened, Mrs. Danjuma called Nneka directly. Chidi received the congratulatory letter. Nneka returned to work. She did not mind standing behind him. She believed they were standing together. Within 7 years, Prime Access had become a multi-million-dollar company. They moved into a modern office building with glass walls and polished floors. There were more than 100 employees. Company vehicles carried the Prime Axis name across the city. Newspapers began requesting interviews with Chidi. At first, he acknowledged Nneka. A reporter once asked how he had built the company so quickly. Chidi smiled and pointed toward her. Nneka and I built this together. Nneka smiled proudly. But as the interviews became more frequent, the answer changed. We began with nothing, Chidi would say. Then, I took a risk when nobody believed in me. And eventually, I built Prime Axis from the ground up. Nneka heard him. She noticed that the word "we" had slowly disappeared. But she told herself it was branding. Chidi was the managing director. Perhaps the public needed one clear face. At home, however, the change became harder to ignore. Whenever Nneka corrected his figures, Chidi became irritated. Whenever she warned him against a risky decision, he accused her of being negative. One evening, after she stopped him from investing company money in a poorly planned project, he threw the file onto the table. You always act as though I cannot make a decision without you. Nneka looked at him calmly. I am trying to protect what we built. What I built. The words came out before he could stop them. Silence filled the room. Chidi softened his voice. You know what I meant. Nneka looked away. Yes, she was beginning to know exactly what he meant. The opportunity that changed everything arrived through Balogun Group. The Balogun family owned businesses in construction, manufacturing, hotels, and international trade. Winning their new logistics and procurement contract could take Prime Axis into markets Chidi had only dreamed of entering. The person leading the negotiations was Zara Balogun. She was elegant, educated abroad, and accustomed to powerful people seeking her attention. During the first presentation, Chidi spoke with confidence. The slides were Nneka's. The figures were Nneka's. The risk analysis was Nneka's. But the voice presenting them belonged to Chidi. Zara watched him closely. Afterward, she approached him. You built all this from nothing. Chidi glanced toward Nneka, who was closing the presentation files. For a second, the old Chidi almost answered honestly. Then he smiled. Vision, he said. Courage, and refusing to listen to people who think small. Nneka heard him. So did Zara. Zara looked impressed. That evening, Chidi could not stop speaking about her. She understands ambition, he said. Nneka continued reviewing the draft contract. She understands that you enjoy being admired. Chidi laughed. Are you jealous? No, I am checking the numbers. You should learn to relax. And you should learn to read before signing. Chidi's smile disappeared. For the first time, Nneka was not only the woman who knew his weaknesses. She was standing between him and someone who made him feel like the great man magazines claimed he was. As negotiations continued, Chidi began meeting Zara alone. At first, he called them working dinners, then weekend planning sessions, then private discussions that somehow lasted until midnight. During one meeting, Zara asked how long Nneka had worked for the company. Chidi answered, She has been with us from the beginning. She manages finance and operations. Nneka looked at him. Not partner, not co-founder, not the woman who had built the company beside him. A manager, an employee. Later that evening, she confronted him in his office. Why did you introduce me that way? That is your position. My position. You are the finance and operations director. Chidi, I helped create this company. And I own it. Nneka stared at him. Chidi leaned back in his chair. We cannot confuse Zara with personal history. She is an important client. You mean you do not want her to know we are together? That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said without saying it. Chidi stood. Do not embarrass me in front of people who can change our lives. Our lives? Yes. Nneka looked at him carefully. She could see that he was already imagining a future, but she was no longer standing inside it. To win the Balogun contract, Chidi offered a price far below the other companies bidding for it. When Nneka examined the figures, she felt cold. The price could not cover their real operating costs. If fuel prices rose or suppliers demanded faster payment, Prime Axis could lose millions. Nneka entered Chidi's office carrying the file. You must change this offer. The Baloguns like it, Chidi replied. Of course they like it, Nneka said. We will be paying part of their costs ourselves. We will recover the money through future contracts, he answered. That is not guaranteed, she said. Nothing in business is guaranteed, Chidi replied. This is not courage, Chidi, Nneka said. It is recklessness. During the final management meeting, Nneka raised the issue in front of Zara and the senior team. We are not ready to execute this contract at the proposed price, she said. Chidi's face tightened. Zara looked between them, then turned to Nneka. Are you saying your company cannot handle the work? I am saying the current terms will damage the company, Nneka replied. Chidi interrupted. Nneka has always been cautious. Nneka looked at him. Caution is the reason we still have a company. The room became silent. After the meeting, Zara spoke privately to Chidi. A man cannot lead while someone beside him questions every decision. She has always been difficult, Chidi replied. Then why do you allow it? Zara asked. Chidi looked through the glass wall at Nneka working at her desk. For years, her intelligence had saved him. Now it made him feel small. Chidi called two senior managers into his office. Nneka, head of procurement, and Bola, head of administration. Both knew Nneka's value, but they also knew that as long as she remained, they would never have complete control over their departments. Chidi promised them promotions and increased salaries. He told them Nneka had become an obstacle. She behaves as if the company belongs to her, Chidi said. Nneka hesitated. She knows the operations better than anyone. That is why we need a new structure, Chidi replied. Bola looked at him carefully. What do you want us to do? Together, they prepared accusations. Nneka had delayed the Balogun deal. Nneka had withheld financial reports. Nneka had disobeyed the managing director. Nneka was creating division among senior staff. None of it was completely true, but each accusation contained enough truth to sound believable when twisted. Nneka received an invitation to an emergency management meeting. She entered with her laptop, expecting to discuss the Balogun contract. Instead, she saw a termination letter on the table. Zara sat beside Chidi as an observer. Nneka and Bola refused to meet Nneka's eyes. Then Chidi began reading the accusations. Nneka listened in disbelief. When Chidi finished, she looked at Nneka. Who renegotiated the supplier agreement that saved your department last year? Nneka looked down. She turned to Bola. Who stayed all night correcting the payroll mistake before 100 employees went unpaid? Bola said nothing. Then Nneka looked at Chidi. Tell them the truth. I am trying to protect the company, Chidi replied. From me? She asked. From anyone who refuses to respect leadership. Nneka gave a bitter laugh. You mean anyone who knows when you are wrong? Chidi pushed the company documents across the table. My name is on the registration. Nneka looked at the page she had seen years earlier, the page she had allowed love to explain. Chidi continued. You were employed by Prime Axis. You were paid for your work. Paid? Nneka repeated. Yes, he answered. Is that what you think those years were worth? She asked. Chidi's voice hardened. Security will escort you out. Nneka looked towards Zara. Zara remained silent. Perhaps she believed Chidi's story. Perhaps she simply did not care enough to question it. Nneka closed her laptop. She did not beg. She did not shout. She stood, gathered her belongings, and walked out. That evening, she returned to the apartment she shared with Chidi. Her suitcases were waiting near the door. The lease is in my name, Chidi said. Nneka stared at him. You planned all of this. It is better for everyone, he replied. For everyone, she asked. You will find something else. Nneka nodded slowly. You are right. She picked up her bags. I will. That night, she slept in the guest room of an old university friend. For the first time in 11 years, Nneka woke with no company, no salary, no home, and no man beside her. She had spent more than a decade building a future. By morning, it belonged entirely to someone else. The first week was the hardest. Nneka woke at 5 each morning because her body still expected work. Then she remembered that she had nowhere to go. She applied for senior positions at other companies. Some employers admired her experience, but whenever they contacted Prime Axis for a reference, the opportunity disappeared. Chidi had instructed the Human Resources Department to describe her as difficult and insubordinate. Nneka sold jewelry to cover her expenses. She moved from her friend's guest room into a small rented apartment. At night, she stared at the ceiling and replayed every warning she had ignored. The registration documents, the interviews where Chidi stopped saying we, the dinners with Zara, the way he began calling her cautious whenever she prevented disaster. Nneka did not only grieve the company, she grieved the version of Chidi she had loved. She wondered whether that man had ever existed, or whether he had simply needed her until he believed he no longer did. One morning, Nneka sat at the edge of her bed and whispered, I helped build a multi-million-dollar company, and now I cannot even afford this rent for 3 more months. For the first time since leaving Prime Axis, she cried without trying to stop herself. At Prime Axis, Chidi celebrated. The Balogun contract was signed. Champagne flowed through the boardroom. Zara stood beside him while photographers captured the moment. Chidi promoted Nneka and Bola. He moved into a larger office. He bought a new luxury vehicle, even though the company had not yet received the first major payment. He told everyone Prime Axis had entered a new era, and for several weeks, it appeared that he was right. Then the problems began. A supplier refused to release materials because an old balance had not been paid. Bola discovered that Nneka had been personally checking payroll before every payment. Nneka ordered goods from the wrong supplier and lost money on poor quality materials. Clients complained that nobody returned their calls. Deadlines passed. Documents disappeared between departments. Chidi became angry. How difficult can this be? He shouted during one meeting. The managers looked at one another. They had assumed Nneka's systems operated by themselves. They had never understood that behind each smooth result was a woman checking, correcting, reminding, and repairing. Chidi blamed the staff. The staff blamed the managers. The managers blamed Nneka for not leaving proper instructions. No one blamed the man who had thrown her out. Not yet. Mrs. Grace Danjuma noticed the change before most clients did. Her deliveries began arriving late. Invoices contained mistakes. Telephone calls went unanswered. After the third failure, she entered Chidi's office. "Where is Nneka?" Chidi leaned back. "She no longer works here." "Why?" She could not adjust to the company's growth. Mrs. Danjuma watched him carefully. "Nneka handled growth better than anyone in this building. She became resistant." "To what?" "My leadership." Mrs. Danjuma said nothing more. That evening, she searched through her old messages and found Nneka's personal number. Nneka answered on the fourth ring. "Mrs. Danjuma." "Where are you?" Nneka hesitated. "At home." "Which home?" The question broke something inside her. The next day, they met in a quiet restaurant. Mrs. Danjuma listened as Nneka explained what happened. When Nneka finished, the older woman shook her head. "I always wondered why your name was not on the company. I thought love was enough." Mrs. Danjuma reached across the table. "My child, I did not trust Prime Axis because of Chidi's speeches. I trusted it because whenever something went wrong, you made it right." Nneka lowered her eyes. "That company is gone for me." "Then build another one." "With what?" "With what you used the first time." Nneka looked at her. Mrs. Danjuma smiled. "Your mind." Mrs. Danjuma offered to invest in Nneka's new company. Nneka refused immediately. "I cannot accept charity." The older woman frowned. "Who said anything about charity?" "You feel sorry for me," Nneka said. "I have been in business for 32 years, Mrs. Danjuma replied. "Feeling sorry for people is expensive." Nneka almost smiled. Mrs. Danjuma continued. "I invest in ability. I watched you solve problems for years. I watched you protect your company, even when your company did not protect you." Nneka shook her head. "I have no office." "Rent one," Mrs. Danjuma replied. "No staff," Nneka said. "Hire slowly." "No clients." "You have one," Mrs. Danjuma said. She placed a small contract on the table. It was not large enough to make Nneka rich. It was large enough to give her a beginning. "I almost never lose when I trust my eye," Mrs. Danjuma said, "and I have been watching you for a long time." Nneka took the contract home. She read every sentence. Then she met with a lawyer. This time, her name appeared on the registration documents. Her shares were written clearly. Her authority was protected, and every agreement existed on paper. She named the company New Dawn. It represented exactly what the company meant to her. A beginning she owned. New Dawn began in a small office with used desks and 3 employees. On the first day, Nneka stood before them. "We are small," she said. "That means we have no excuse to ignore anyone." She handled Mrs. Danjuma's contract personally. She reviewed every cost. She spoke with every supplier. She prepared for problems before they happened. The job was completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Mrs. Danjuma recommended her to another business owner, then another. Months later, one of Prime Axis's former clients heard that Nneka had opened the company. He called her. "I have been trying to reach you," Nneka answered carefully. "I no longer work for Prime Axis. That is why I called." He explained that service had collapsed since she left. Nneka did not insult Chidi. She did not reveal private company information. She simply presented New Dawn services. The client signed. Then another former client contacted her, and another. They did not leave Prime Axis because Nneka begged them. They left because the quality they had trusted was no longer there. The company name had remained. The competence had moved. At Prime Axis, the Balogun project became a disaster. The price Chidi had offered was too low. Fuel costs increased. Suppliers demanded payment. Deadlines were missed. Chidi borrowed money to cover losses and hid the real figures from Zara. Whenever she asked for updates, he gave polished presentations. The slides looked impressive. The work did not. Zara's father eventually ordered an independent review. The report was brutal. Prime Axis had underpriced the contract. Its management systems were failing. Experienced clients were leaving. And nearly every strong internal process had been created or supervised by Nneka. Zara entered Chidi's office carrying the report. "You told me you built this company." "I did." "Then why did everything begin collapsing when one employee left?" "She is stealing my clients." Zara placed the report on his desk. "Clients cannot be stolen by someone they already trusted. She is trying to destroy me." "No, Chidi. You removed the person who was preventing you from destroying yourself." Chidi stood. "Zara, listen to me. I listened to you from the beginning. That was the problem." She removed the ring he had recently given her and placed it on the desk. "My father is cancelling the contract." "What about us?" Zara looked at him with disappointment. "I admired the man I thought built this company. That man does not exist." Then she walked away. The future Chidi had sacrificed Nneka to obtain disappeared through the same door. New Dawn continued growing. Nneka moved into a larger office. She hired experienced employees who had been overlooked elsewhere. She created clear contracts and ensured senior staff understood their rights and responsibilities. During interviews, she mentioned the people who helped her. She refused to build herself by erasing others. The company won an award for client service, then another for operational excellence. A business newspaper published Nneka's story beneath the headline, "The Woman Who Built Again." When the reporter asked what made New Dawn successful, Nneka answered, "People, systems, and refusing to make promises we cannot keep." Across the city, Prime Axis fell apart. The Balogun contract was gone. Clients left. Employees went unpaid. Creditors seized the company vehicles. Nneka and Bola resigned before the final collapse and blamed Chidi for everything. The glass office closed. The Prime Axis sign was removed from the building. Chidi sold his car, then his watches, then most of his furniture. He moved into one room in a crowded neighborhood where no one cared about the magazine covers he once appeared on. For the first time, there was nobody beside him quietly fixing his mistakes. And without Nneka, Chidi discovered how ordinary he truly was. One afternoon, Chidi opened an old storage box containing company records. He was searching for documents he could use to revive Prime Axis. Instead, he found years of Nneka's work. Emails showing her calming clients after his mistakes. Reports correcting the numbers he had approved. Messages from suppliers agreeing to better terms because Nneka had built trust with them. Warnings she sent him before failed decisions. Records showing penalties she had prevented. Losses she had quietly repaired. Chidi continued reading until evening. For years, he had believed the company survived because he was brilliant. Now he saw the truth. He made promises. Nneka made them possible. He entered rooms. Nneka gave people reasons to trust what he said. He had been the face of Prime Axis. Nneka had been its mind, memory, and discipline. Chidi covered his face and cried. Not only because he had lost the company, not only because Zara had left him, he cried because he finally understood his own mediocrity. The woman he had called an obstacle had spent years protecting him from discovering it. 2 years after Nneka left Prime Axis carrying a cardboard box, she stood on a stage beneath bright lights. The hall was filled with business leaders, journalists, and investors. Mrs. Danjuma sat in the front row. Nneka was named Businesswoman of the Year. As the audience applauded, Nneka remembered the morning security escorted her out. She remembered the guest room, the rejection letters, the small office, the first contract bearing her own name. She accepted the award without mentioning Chidi. Her life was no longer a response to him. After the ceremony, she found him waiting near the exit. His suit was old, his shoulders were lower. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Chidi said, "Congratulations." "Thank you," Nneka replied. "I have followed everything you have done." Nneka remained silent. Chidi continued, "I was wrong. I was proud. I allowed people to make me believe I did everything alone." "You did not need people to make you believe it," Nneka answered. Chidi lowered his eyes. "I know." He apologized for the company, for the house, for Zara, for the years he had erased Nneka while benefiting from her work. Then he asked, "Can we begin again?" Nneka looked at him. "As business partners, as anything," he replied. "I will accept anything." Nneka spoke calmly. "When we had nothing, I gave you everything because I believed love made us equal." Chidi's eyes filled with tears. Nneka continued, "You taught me that a person must never disappear inside another person's dream." Chidi tried to interrupt her. "Nneka!" She raised one hand and stopped him. "I forgive you," Nneka said. Hope appeared on Chidi's face. Then Nneka continued, "But forgiveness does not mean returning to the place that broke me." The hope disappeared. "I will never build another future where my name can be erased." Nneka walked towards the car waiting for her. Chidi remained beneath the lights, watching the woman he once called an employee leave as the owner of everything she had built. Several months later, Nneka sat at the head of New Dawn's boardroom table. Mrs. Danjuma sat beside her. Her senior team filled the remaining seats. Before Nneka laid the largest contract the company had ever received. She read the final page. Then she picked up her pen. For a moment, she remembered the first company document she had found inside Chidi's briefcase, the one carrying only his name, the one he had called meaningless paperwork. Nneka smiled. Then she signed. Her own name, clear, permanent, impossible to remove. The room filled with applause. Across town, Chidi watched the announcement on a small television in his rented room. He saw the cameras, the award behind her, the employees looking at her with respect, and he finally understood something success had once hidden from him. Nneka had not become brilliant after leaving him. She had always been brilliant. She had only stopped using her brilliance to make him look greater than he was. My people, love should not require you to disappear. Loyalty should not mean giving someone the power to erase your contribution. And trust should never prevent you from protecting what you helped build. Chidi lost everything because he mistook the woman carrying him for the woman standing in his way. But Nneka did not rise because Chidi fell. She rose because she finally stopped hiding the strength that had been hers all along. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who has spent too long building another person's dream while forgetting their own. Subscribe and turn on notifications because another story is already waiting. Until next time, remember, love may ask you to give, but it should never ask you to disappear.